Welcome to this special course in English pronunciation, reading loud, making sense out of sounds. First of all, let me give you a brief introduction to the course. What is it? What do we mean by reading aloud? What do we mean by a special course in English pronunciation? What are you going to learn in this course? Let's look at an example. It's a passage taken from Solar Power. Now listen to me, and we're going to find out the relationship between pronunciation and reading aloud. Heating water. This is the most common use of solar energy at the moment. It works like this. A system of tubes heats up in contact with sunlight. The tubes go into a tank with water in it. A few hours sunshine will give most houses enough hot water for a whole day. Swimming pools can be heated this way too. Okay, now can you tell me, is this pronunciation or reading aloud? And we say this is an integrated course of pronunciation and reading aloud. They come together in one sense, and that is making sense out of sounds. This means I'm going to teach you pronunciation. However, the context is reading aloud. I'm going to use texts, passages, or other reading materials in the context of reading aloud to show you how to learn English pronunciation. On the other hand, I teach you pronunciation in order for you to read the passage aloud in the correct way. What is the relationship between sounds and sense? They're one thing, especially in the context of language. Sense and sounds come together. So, sounds are made for sense, and the sense is represented in sounds. There is something different in this course. English is not mother tongue. It's a foreign language for us, so there is always foreign language anxiety. It's going to be more difficult than when we study everything with mother tongue. I hope that you can remember there will be always two intertwined steps in the learning of English pronunciation, and at the same time, the learning of reading aloud. The two steps, and they are intertwined. It's not a step-by-step procedure. So step one may come to step two, and step two may come to step one. And step one, that's make sense out of sounds. Step two, take care of the sense, and the sounds will take care of themselves. These are the two levels. At the first level, our focus is on the sounds. We mainly study sounds because we want to know how sounds can express meaning. At a higher level, our focus is on meaning. We're going to understand, well, all the speech sounds are made for meaning. So when we want to speak, produce any English utterance, we know that is for the purpose of communication of ideas. Course objectives. What are the goals of the course? What kind of problems are you going to solve in this course? 3 objectives. The first one is to understand the difference between English and Chinese. This is vital, very important. If you want to speak English in the English way, and you have to learn the difference between English and Chinese, as the two languages are so different. Second, to understand how meaning is conveyed in English connected speech. you might be somewhat unfamiliar with the term connected speech, which is 语流 in Chinese. We'll come into that very soon. And then I assure you that we're going to talk about that in great detail in the course. Connected speech. And that is in opposition to speech sounds. That's the third goal. So meanwhile, to learn this course, we're going to understand the English sounds. Here the English sounds means the vowels and consonants, 元音和辅音. Remember, this is an integrated course, pronunciation and reading aloud. So we're going to learn pronunciation by means of reading aloud. There are 5 chapters in the course. Chapter 1, rhythm. Chapter 2, intonation. Chapter 3, sentence stress and weak form. Chapter 4, sound changes. Chapter 5, vowels and consonants. Let me say a few words about the structure of the course. Chapters 1 to 5. Chapter 1, rhythm. 2, intonation. 3, sentence stress and weak form. 4, sound changes. They come together to form connected speech. Connected speech, that means the combination of speech sounds, the combination of vowels and consonants. When vowels and consonants come together, and a lot of different complicated phenomena will occur. And then among them, we have rhythm, intonation, sentence stress and weak form, and sound changes. What about the sounds? The sounds themselves? Yes, we have them. All the phenomena, the occurrence in a connected speech will be realized by the arrangement or the connection or the combination of vowels and consonants. And these are the smallest, the atomic units of English pronunciation. And we call them speech sounds. Now, here we can see now the difference between speech sounds and connected speech. When we say speech sounds, we mean vowels and consonants, individual sounds. And the connected speech, that means when the sounds come together. And usually, then we're going to have syllables, words, phrases, sentences, and paragraphs, or even a long text. So the course takes the direction from a big picture to details. So this means we're going to present a panorama of English pronunciation, a big picture. And then we're going to zoom in, and then we're going to look at the details. The target learners of the course. This is not for beginners. Remember this. It's important because then I hope that you have a different understanding of what English pronunciation means to you. It's different from what we understood when we were primary school students, when we were beginners. And as the beginners, then we usually study the pronunciation from the very, very detailed things, like the speech sounds, vowels and consonants, letters and then vowels and consonants. You're not beginners. You've been learning English for about, or at least 10 years. So I'd like to call you like at least an intermediate or advanced level learners. And now you're going to have a different way to study the English pronunciation. How to study English pronunciation as an intermediate or advanced learner. It's going to be somewhat different. But one thing is certain. When we talk about pronunciation or reading aloud, imitation is always the most effective method. Imitation. That means then you please follow standard pronunciation. Please follow native speakers. Students often have a misunderstanding, some kind of misconceptions about the study method of English pronunciation. The most typical one is this. How to study English pronunciation, and students will answer, okay, I'm going to read aloud, and read aloud. I'm going to do morning reading every day. Is it the right way? It could be the right way, and it could be the worst way. One thing that is connected to this is that practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect, which means then we should practice all the time. But then sometimes people practice pronunciation simply in the wrong way. Why do I say these are the misconceptions about the study method? Because if you practice in the wrong way, for example, if you speak the wrong thing all the time, and then the wrong thing will be consolidated, will be fossilized in your brain. So what you learn is wrong. So you won't get the right one. Then, what is the right method? For advanced learners, I'm going to say, well, this is also true with beginners. It's always the right thing. The right way to study a language, not just pronunciation, is always to develop a feel for the language. To develop a feel for the language. Do you have that feel? Can you feel that that's English, it's not Chinese? What is the difference between the two languages? And the two languages are so familiar to us, and they're so much closely related to us. However, if you want to speak English, then you have to do it in an English way. How can we achieve this? Easy. The simplest way is to listen, listen, listen. Remember that language learning begins with the ear. So listening is the first step, and listening is the most important step. Listen for what? You listen to the tape, listen to standard English to discriminate and compare. What does that mean? You listen and then try to find out the difference between your pronunciation and the standard pronunciation. And then you try to compare, and then you correct yourself. And the next step is to imitate. So don't imitate blindly. You're going to imitate in the right way. Imitate, not enough. Imitate, and then you need to compare, and you need to discriminate. And then you further correct yourself. During this process, there is something very important that you need to think about, that is to think and to feel. What does that mean? That means you need some silent times, some time of silence. You don't speak, but then your brain works. You do not speak, but then you can hear, you can rehearse in your brain. Just try to imagine that you hear people singing. Well, nobody's singing. It's the same way when you study English pronunciation. You listen to the standard English, you listen again and again, and to the degree that then you can hear the sound, you can hear the voice of native speakers, you can hear the voice of the speaker, even if no sounds are being made. And in that way, then you can feel, and then you can think, what is that feel? What is the feel for the language? We call that voice, the voice that you hear, that voice is in the speech. No sounds are being made, but you can hear them. So the most effective way, remember, for you would be listening. Listen, listen, and listen. Summary. What have we talked about? We've talked about the course description. What is the course about? What is it? What to learn? And also, I've given you the course outline, the content of the course, 5 chapters: rhythm, intonation, sentence stress and weak form, sound changes, and speech sounds. Finally, we talked about the study methods, and I emphasized two things. Imitation is the most effective way. However, listening is a vital step.